Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome into Philadelphia 76ers. Now, my name is Chase Sr. As always, thank you so much for making today's show possible and a part of your day. Coming up, it's the holiday season. Christmas, Hanukkah coming up in a few days, whatever holidays you celebrate. Hope you're having a great holiday season. So fittingly, we put together a Philadelphia 76ers wish list to help the Sixers contend for the rest of the year. And as always, you always have a voice on this show, so let your voices be heard. What is on your 76ers wish list this year? Let us know down in the comment section right now. Let's begin with this. A trade for Keon Ellis. And we talked about Keon Ellis last week here on the show. A very feisty defender who will get his hands and arms in the way of passing lanes. He's very disruptive on the defensive side of the floor. He's also a very young player. I like the game coming out of Alabama. Long, wiry, very quick and explosive athlete in limited offensive reps. Not a bad three-point shooter when he's had those opportunities. Buried a little bit on a pretty deep Sacramento Kings team. Speaking of those three-point numbers, almost 41% from three-point range. His numbers in 2023-2024, they paint a decent picture of the player who he is. And I kind of said he's like Patrick Beverley without the antics and with a better three-point shot. I'm going to stick with that. You know, in 17 minutes per game last year, he averaged 5 points per, 46% from the floor, and almost 42% from three. Those aren't numbers that Patrick Beverley would be able to put up because he doesn't have that offensive ability. But with Ellis, he kind of does. And his calling card, elite defensive tools, really good instincts where he can kind of predict plays before they happen. Very good feel for the game, active hands, and he's just a disruptive annoyance on the defensive end of the floor. And Philadelphia needs to get better with three-point shooting. As we've discussed, they need to get better with defense. And in the East, you're going to be going up against players like Jalen Brunson, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Donovan Mitchell, Jimmy Butler if he doesn't get traded, Trae Young. And this is a player who can help your defense defend or at least limit and bother some of those players. You know, it's also important. He's very affordable, and he's under contract for the next 2 years. $2 million this year, 2.3 in 2025, 2026. This screams of a Daryl Morey type of value player. And so this trade idea, could the Kings be willing to do it? You give him Eric Gordon, not a bad shooter still at this point of his career. 3 second-round picks. Keon Ellis, Chip, leading our wish list during this holiday season. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so look, this move to me is the first move the Sixers have to go out and make. If you got to give up a first-round pick, 3 seconds, whatever it might be, I'd be willing to throw in a first-round pick because Keon Ellis fits in perfectly. I would start him right next to Tyrese Maxey. You obviously don't have McCain probably for the rest of the season. So this helps you in a couple different ways. One, like Eric Gordon had a decent game the other night against the Cavs, but the Sixers got blown out. Who cares?
Yeah.
Keon Ellis right now is currently a better three-point shooter than Eric Gordon is. He just offers so much more as a defender. He's just, for some reason, not getting as much run in Sacramento as Sacramento Kings fans would like him to get. And so I think he's the exact kind of player that championship teams really need, a guy who's cheap for this year and next year. That's why it's so important that $2 million, all you have to give up money-wise is Eric Gordon. So you can hold on to KJ Martin for another trade. And he just gives you that defender on the perimeter next to Tyrese Maxey so that Maxey, you know, he has such a responsibility offensively. You can let Keon Ellis take their best guard, and then you still have, you know, Paul George out in the wing, Caleb Martin, Kelly Oubre doing their thing. Just a perfect fit, low usage, low maintenance type of guy who's just going to put up those threes. And if he's knocking down 40% of his threes and playing not quite all NBA level defense, but still elite defense, man, he's a guy that the Sixers and Daryl Morey got to be trying to go get right now, especially if Sacramento is willing to move on from him.
And obviously with our wish list, Santa's going to be very helpful this year. We don't just have one thing on our wish list. Plenty more to get to here on this show. So wish list item number 2 is a trade for Santi Aldama to help improve the depth and to help address some of the weaknesses on this Sixers team. And this year in 2024-2025, having a pretty good year, 13 points per game. He can hit the glass, rebound the ball pretty well, 7.5 rebounds there, not bad at distributing the ball with his size. He's connecting on just shy of 51% of his shots, 38% from three, again at that size. You'll certainly take that, and all of that coming in 26 minutes per game. So a good rotational piece right now who's having a good year for Memphis. Here's what Jake Fisher had to say on him. Aldama, someone that I think will be available in Memphis for the right price. His salary falls under that KJ Martin tradable salary of $7.9 million. He didn't come to a rookie extension this fall. Talked to someone today that said keep your eye out on him for the trade market. Somebody who could play next to Joel Embiid, slide in at the 4 spot for Philadelphia and play small ball 5 and give a lot of optionality for Philadelphia. Philadelphia, I'm told, is open to acquiring somebody who is making below $8 million, who is eligible for a new contract this summer. Philly would be willing to go and pay more money for him and way deeper into the luxury tax and have to deal with the apron challenges if they are paying for the long-term upside potential growth. So obviously the apron challenges and the salary cap, all kind of issues with Philadelphia right now, their payroll as they're paying max deals to Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid. And so when you think about Aldama, expiring deal, just 23 years old, versatile skill set. Daryl Morey likes versatile players at just $3.9 million. Fits what Philadelphia is looking for very perfectly. And the style of play, I think, is a good adaptation to what Philadelphia has and what they're searching for. And so an Aldama trade idea, Sixers get him, Grizzlies receive KJ Martin as the salary filler, and you do give up and surrender a 2026 first-round pick. So the first-round pick kind of lofty, but Chip, you're thinking in 2026, even if this year continues to go poorly, you're a good team next year.
Yeah, look, it's definitely a little bit more of a risk to give up that first-round pick, but I think that's what Santi Aldama would command in the trade market, especially when you're giving a player. And KJ Martin, who probably isn't someone that the Memphis Grizzlies will be too sold on as, being a future part of their team. They are very deep at the wing spot. They have some guys injured right now that should be coming back eventually, and that's why I think Santi Aldama is expendable, because they probably don't want to have to pay him this offseason, whereas, you heard what Jake Fisher had to say. The Sixers are willing to extend somebody in the offseason and go into the apron if they have to, if they believe they can be a part of this team long term. And since Aldama is still just 23 and is having the best year of his career, shooting nearly 40% from three at his size with his skill set, he's kind of the perfect fit there, right next to Embiid in that front court and next to Paul George, more so than I think somebody like, a KJ Martin would be, because although he's had a better year and played better as of late, I just don't think as good of a three-point shooter, not as good of a rebounder, definitely more athletic, but I think Aldama more of a well-rounded player and more of a player that can contribute in a championship-level team. So, if you can go out and upgrade from Eric Gordon to Keon Ellis, upgrade from KJ Martin to Santi Aldama, I think all of a sudden you have a roster now that is retooled a little bit with players that make you a little bit deeper, a little more talented to go out and try to compete in this East. Because, again, you got to compete with the likes of the Cleveland Cavaliers. You just saw absolutely dominate the Sixers. No Embiid, granted, but still dominate them last on Saturday. It was very, very ugly. And, the Boston Celtics, of course, as well. So these two players, I think, are players that are realistically could be available and that you could go get and could really be rotational players, even some starters here as we move forward.
Yeah, and as we move forward here on the show, a question for everybody out there, what say you if KJ Martin is that piece who the Sixers have to give up in a trade? Would you be okay with trading him? T for trade, K for keep. Sound off with what you think down in the comment section. As for our sponsor for today's 76ers Now, our friends at DraftKings, the best sports book in the game. And right now, if you bet $5, you get $150 if your bet wins, paid instantly in bonus bets. It's the most wonderful time of the year for getting in on all of the hoops, football, and hockey action at DraftKings Sportsbook. In the season of giving, we're being gifted college football and basketball, pro football and basketball, and pro hockey too, almost 24/7. And here's a gift for all new customers. Bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code SixersChat. That's code SixersChat for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Happy holidays from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/bball. Sixers playing on Christmas Day against the Boston Celtics. Boston, as they should be, favored by 9 points. The Sixers on the money line, underdogs at plus 320. The total over-under 222. Odds and lines subject to change. Use that code Sixers chat so that DraftKings know that we sent you. 76ers wish list item number 3. Sign Dennis Smith Jr. Now, a failed player as a first-round pick with what people thought he was going to become. But could he be a new backup point guard? I thought last year he actually played decent. He's attempting another NBA comeback. Could fit in with Philadelphia after Jared McCain's injury. By the way, Jared McCain on a video over the weekend pretty much revealed that he's going to be out for the year, which just sucks. You heard it from the source. In 2023-2024 for Dennis Smith Jr., average 18.9 minutes per game, 6.5 points, 2.9 rebounds, 3.5 assists. The shooting numbers have always been a problem. Kind of like a poor man's Russell Westbrook, where, a few years ago and when he was coming into the league, especially twitched up athlete, could jump out of the gym, but was reckless with the basketball and 43.5% from the field, 29% from three. Just not a good offensive player. Why would Philadelphia sign him? Look, the Sixers could use another point of attack defender and playmaker at that guard spot, somebody who could create, get up and down the floor in a blink, give them some speed and some of that remaining athleticism that he has. He suffered from some injuries, but that's why Philadelphia could bring him in. So Dennis Smith Jr. Getting some G League looks right now, but obviously would prefer getting a real NBA roster look.
Yeah, and the Sixers have an open roster spot still. Remember, they kept one open from this offseason for flexibility. So come trade deadline, they're going to want to fill it at some point.
Yeah.
There's no reason just to leave one open once you get past the deadline. So, again, this is assuming, they trade for Keon Ellis, and they also trade for Aldama. So you've already made a couple moves. Don't really have too many pieces to trade at that point. So now with that last open roster spot you have, why not just take a chance? To me, this is a move I would make because I'm just not too optimistic on what Kyle Lowry or Reggie Jackson can give you in a full postseason run or even down the stretch of the season. I think at least Dennis Smith Jr. is younger, better defensively, obviously not a great offensive player, not going to space the floor, but he's improved a lot as a playmaker over his career, taking care of the ball, and just playing good hard-nosed defense. So you bring in someone like Keon Ellis who can play defense on the perimeter. You bring in a Dennis Smith who, again, doesn't even have to play all that much, but you need to fill that spot anyways, so why not, in my opinion, just bring in a guy that, has shown to at least be a competent, decent NBA player the past couple of years, and you at least know he can do one thing, and that's defend pretty well. Even if he doesn't get that shot around, which I don't think he will, because he hasn't shown that, still a player that can give you something to fill that last spot on your roster.
Yeah, and that roster spot that's open that Chip alluded to, that's given Philadelphia some roster flexibility here. Wish list item number 4, how about playing Ricky Council? It's so weird how Nick Nurse will play Ricky Council sometimes, and then he'll get DNP'd. He's not a part of the rotation. But seemingly when he does play, Ricky Council pounces on the opponent, and with his athleticism, it gives this team an edge, and he seems to be a very solid piece and an NBA rotation player. The Sixers need some of this youth juice. Look at what he's done in his last 10 games, 17.7 minutes per. He's averaged 9 points per game, 43.5% from the floor, 29% from three. I think those numbers could go up a little bit if he gets some more opportunities, but really he'll get in your grill on the offensive and defensive end of the floor, and I think the Sixers need a pit bull type of player like Ricky Council who's not scared. And the numbers might not pop, but to me this is also an eye test type of player. He's making an impact in these games, hustle and effort on a veteran-laden team. He pushes the ball in transition, and he's looking more aggressive and confident. And remember how young of a player he is. So, Nick Nurse, get him in the rotation, man.
Yeah, he's got to be a mainstay. As you put it perfectly, like he'll play some games a good amount of minutes, then all of a sudden random DMP here, DMP there, not as much minutes here as he does in this other game. I think he should be a mainstay off the bench, man. Like, you need somebody with that kind of juice and that kind of athleticism, especially if you trade KJ Martin in this scenario. Like, you're losing some athleticism there, bringing in Santi Aldama in his place. So you need that athleticism off the bench that he can bring you. And, the shot's still coming along, and it's not quite maybe as far along as we might have hoped at this point in the season. But, again, still so young. But I think he's able to impact the game in other ways, which is rare a lot of times for younger players to be able to find ways to impact the game outside of scoring. And he does that because of his hustle. I mean, even the amount of times already this season, I've seen him pick up a rebound where it's not even a true transition opportunity.
Yep.
But he gets that board and flies down the court and is attacking the rim. And sometimes he's out of control. And sometimes he can put up a wild shot. But sometimes he'll dunk on someone. Or he'll finish a nice layup through contact at the end one and go to the line. So I think he just gives you something that you don't really have a lot of in that second rotation. And especially with some of the older guys in this lineup, Paul George specifically on that wing, I think he can be a good complement to these guys. And again, he's not a player that needs to take a lot of shots to impact the basketball game.
And lastly, this might be the most important item on the wish list. And it is a very simple ask. We are just asking the basketball gods to be with Philadelphia. We're asking Santa to come from the North Pole and give us some good health. Philadelphia just needs to stay healthy. Can Joel Embiid be healthy for a stretch run? Can that help catapult the Sixers up the Eastern Conference standings so that they can make the playoffs? Can Paul George, Tyrese Maxey get healthy? The Sixers will miss Jared McCain. Can the health gods help him out and maybe he can return this year? Philadelphia just needs to stay healthy. And as we go through the holiday season, we're about to flip the page to 2025. Can some health be on the side of this basketball team? Because throughout the course of this organization and its history, oftentimes it is not. It's a simple ask. Please subscribe to the channel before we hop on out of here. Really appreciate everybody's support. Have a great and safe holiday season. And keep it locked here on 76ers Now.